Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name's Mel, as you know, and I am an alcoholic. Hi. I love this meeting. You know, this is the first meeting of AA that I came to that I liked. And it's the first place where I took my first year cake, and it's the first meeting where I got a sponsor. And I come back to this meeting to be of service because there's something here that I really want. And I didn't know that when I first got here. I did not come in here and identify at all for my first 30 days. I sat in the back, and you know, for all the newcomers, I want to welcome you. This is a wonderful place to be. And whether you identified or not, it doesn't matter. You're welcome here. You know, whether you're high or not, it doesn't matter. You're welcome here. This is a great place to work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and get sober. When I was using, what I was like was a liar, a cheat, and a thief, and I didn't think I was. You know, it's like I had this idea that I was this married woman getting my master's degree and living this really nice life, jet-setting around the world whenever I felt like it. And it was a complete facade. Those are the things that I that I took to me to try to cure my alcoholism. Because I was out of it. I was loaded from 6 a.m. until 3 a.m. every day. You know, but to hide that from myself, from the people around me, I brought all these things in. I had money, I had everything that one would think that they want out of life, that they think's a solution. And it wasn't a solution. I was absolutely miserable. I had friends that I hadn't spoken to. I had family I wouldn't see. And I lived in the other side of the state from my husband. That's how isolated I was, and that's the way I liked it because it was safe. I'd be out in my car getting loaded so that when people came to my door, there'd be no excuses to me being, you know, not coming to the door. It's like, oh, I wasn't home. I was out in my car doing crossword puzzles and getting loaded. You know, that was the way I lived my life. And it was great because I didn't have to lie then, and then I could convince myself that I wasn't a liar. You know, if I went to your house and you left the room and there were some drugs left on the table and I happened to take some, well, I'm not really a thief, I'm just borrowing them. You'll come over to my house and use mine later. But of course, I was never home when they came to use my drugs. Okay? So, you know, and it's like this is the facade that I walked around with for years. I grew up in a toxic household, and I hated my family, I hated my parents, I hated my country. So my solution was to leave. And, you know, I started kind of a spree around the world where, you know, it's like I got kicked out of countries and I got, you know, passed out in places you don't want to be and set people on fire in Bangkok and, you know, and those were the good times. You know, it's like that's when I was having fun in my using days. And it was about 10 years before I quit using. You know, and I can tell you right now, if you're searching in the carpet for a bit of drug that you might have dropped, if you are digging in somebody else's refrigerator for alcohol, you might be an alcoholic, you know? And I didn't recognize those signs, even though they started immediately upon the time that I started using drugs and alcohol. You know, and I wasn't young, but I took to it like a duck takes to water, you know, because it cured the pain. It's like I was in so much pain, and I didn't like people very much, you know. It's like I don't mind standing up here. I have no problem with that because I love looking down on people, you know. And I mean that from a point of view that this is the way that I came into the program. I wanted to look down on you, or I wanted to be in the back of the room lying on the floor. I wanted to think that I knew how to tell you how to live your life, and I'll tell you what, I don't know. I don't know how you should live your life at all. You know, and what I've learned in this program is not to stand up here and look down on you and not to lie down in the back of the room throwing up and feel isolated from you. What I learned in this program is how to be one with you. You know, how to join a group and feel comfortable in the herd. You know, and that was just not my story. I always wanted to be different. I always wanted to stand out. And I decided that I had to quit drinking and I had to quit using drugs, and I didn't know how to do it. And this sounds a bit odd, but I didn't know what Alcoholics Anonymous was. And I was dry for about 2 weeks, and I walked to the seminar, and I was freaking out. And I walked up to the front of the seminar, and this guy looks at me, and he goes, "Hey, you're with us." And I didn't, you know, at that point I was, you know, going through withdrawals, and I was shaking, and I was like, okay. So I stood there. Well, that man turned out to be the secretary of this meeting. And it wasn't a seminar on drugs and alcohol. It was completely different. He was with 2 other people. They each had 60 years of sobriety between them. Over the course of 3 days, they started telling me what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is. They explained it really simply because that was all I could understand at the time. They said that basically it's the triangle. One side's unity, the other side's recovery, and the bottom foundation is service. We bring our bodies to meetings. That's how we have the unity, and it cures our body. We work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's where we have the mental recovery. And once we have those, we can be of service in the meetings, and that's how we heal our spirits. And when I found that out, I looked at my friend who told me, and I said, wow, my dad could really use that program. You know, and that's what I believed. I then stood up and I went into the bathroom at the restaurant, and I sat on the floor in the bathroom and I cried. And I didn't think anyone could see me even when I came out, you know. That was my first awakening to my need to get sober and get some help, because I thought I could do it on my own and I couldn't. I then came into the program and I got sober. So the last thing I want to tell you about what it's like now, after getting the sponsor. You've heard it all from the birthday people. You guys know the program. It's in the big book. I want to tell you about my parents, because I thought I hated my parents. I thought I was a mistake, that they always hated each other. And this is just in the last month, I have learned that my parents are older, you know, and one day they're going to go. And so I was really upset, and it was poor me, one day my parents are going to go, and then I'll have lost them. And I suddenly realized the value of my parents is not me feeling sorry for myself, but why don't I try to get to know my parents? So I rang them up and I started this process. I said, look, why don't you tell me a story every week? I'll call you, we'll talk for 30 minutes. Just tell me a story, your favorite story about your dad, your favorite story about your flying. Both my parents are pilots. And the first time I called my mother and said this, she said, oh, I'd love to do that. And like I said, you know, up till then we didn't really get along. I typed into the computer as my parents were talking, and I'm recording these stories that they're telling me. And the thing that was amazing about my mother is that my mother's first story was not about her being a pilot, which she's very proud of. She said, what I want to tell you about is my mother. And my mother has never spoken to me about her mother, who died years ago before I was born. So it's these amazing gifts that I'm being given, you know, from the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, to get in touch with my family and my friends and to be of service here in the program. Thanks for letting me be of service. 5-minute break.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. If that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.